Welcome to Reform Thinking. I am your host, and today we are sitting down with our resident expert to tackle a text that, quite honestly, it scares me a little bit. We
hmm
usually come to the Bible looking for comfort, right? Or maybe some instructions on how to have a better marriage or manage our anxiety.
So that's often what we're looking for.
But the passage we're looking at today doesn't seem interested in making us comfortable at all, it seems. Well, it seems interested in killing us.
It's good to be with you, and you're right to feel that way. I mean, if this text doesn't frighten you a little, you probably haven't understood it yet.
Okay, that's reassuring, I guess.
We're opening up the Gospel of Matthew, specifically chapter 10, verses 38 and 39. And this is a point where Jesus stops being, just a teacher or a healer.
Yeah.
He becomes something much, much more demanding. He really draws a line in the sand. He says that whoever does not take his cross and follow him is not worthy of him.
That phrase, not worthy, I mean, it just sticks in my throat. We are going to have to talk about that.
We certainly will. And then he follows it up with a paradox that I think is, well, it's the central riddle of the Christian life.
Okay.
Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it.
It sounds like a riddle. And in a culture that is just obsessed with self-protection, with safety, with keeping our options open,
Mhm.
this sounds like actual insanity.
It's completely
We're
countercultural.
trained from the time we're in kindergarten, look out for number one. We curate our reputations on social media. We try to secure our financial futures. We avoid risk like it's a plague.
Right.
And here comes Jesus, not offering us a life hack, but inviting us to a funeral.
A funeral procession for the self. That is exactly the image. And our discussion today, this deep dive, it's going to rely heavily on two theological essays, The Costly Way to Life and The Great Exchange.
Okay.
And our mission, really, is to figure out why Jesus ties discipleship to this kind of radical loss. Why is the only way to be safe to put yourself in danger? Why is the only way to live to actually die?
So before we get to the dying part, which I'm still a little nervous about, we have to look at the map. We can't just parachute into verse 38 without understanding the landscape.
Absolutely not.
This is Matthew chapter 10. Where does this fit in the flow of Matthew's gospel?
Context is everything here. I mean, if you miss the context, you turn this into just a generic call to be a hero or some kind of motivational speech.
Right.
Matthew 10 is what scholars call the missionary discourse. But to really feel the weight of it, you have to look at what happens right before it. In chapters 8 and 9, Jesus is basically on a victory tour.
A victory tour. I've never heard it put that way.
Well, think about it. He comes down from the mountain, from the Sermon on the Mount, and he starts displaying this just raw, unmediated power.
Okay.
He cleanses a leper with a touch, something that should have made him unclean. He heals a centurion servant from a distance, just with a word. He's showing his authority isn't bound by proximity.
Right, and he calms a literal storm on the Sea of Galilee.
He speaks to the wind and the waves, and they obey him. He casts out demons into a herd of pigs, showing his power over the spiritual realm.
And he even raises a girl from the dead.
He even raises a girl from the dead. So put yourself in the disciples' shoes. If you're following him in chapters 8 and 9, you're feeling pretty good.
I'm feeling great. I'm thinking we are with the winner. This is it. The kingdom is rolling in, and it's unstoppable.
Precisely. You're thinking the kingdom is here. You're watching him steamroll over sickness and nature and even Satan's minions. You were probably, mentally measuring the curtains for your new office in the palace.
You're thinking that following Jesus means participating in this unstoppable wave of triumph.
Yes. And then, chapter 10 hits.
And the tone changes.
It shifts violently. Jesus looks at the crowds at the end of chapter 9, and his heart goes out to them. He's moved with compassion because they're harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. He tells the disciples to pray for laborers. And then, right at the start of chapter 10, he answers that prayer by calling the 12 by name and commissioning them.
So he creates the laborers he just told them to pray for.
Yes, exactly. He gives them authority, but then, and this is the shock, he gives them their marching orders. You would expect him to say, go out there and dominate just like I did. Go take over.
Yeah. Keep the victory tour going.
Instead, he says, behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves.
That is a terrible recruiting pitch. Come join my movement. You'll be a sheep surrounded by wolves. That's not going to get a lot of sign-ups.
And it gets worse. He tells them they'll be dragged before councils. They'll be flogged in the synagogues. Brother will deliver brother over to death. You will be hated by all for my name's sake.
Wait, hold on a second. In chapters 8 and 9, the crowds were marveling at him. They were amazed. Now Jesus is saying they're going to hate you. Why this sudden change? If they represent the king who heals people, shouldn't they be popular?
And that is the pastoral realism that Matthew is forcing us to confront. The authority the disciples have is derivative. It's not their own.
Okay.
They don't invent the message. They go where the king directs. And because they represent the king in a world that is in rebellion against God, they will be treated exactly like the king.
So the opposition isn't a sign that something has gone wrong with the mission.
No. And that is a massive paradigm shift for us, even today. We tend to think that if things are going smoothly, if our ministry is growing, if our neighbors like us, then God is blessing us.
Right. And if we face friction or slander or difficulty,
We assume we must have stepped out of God's will, or we did something wrong. But Jesus is saying the exact opposite. He is saying that friction is part of the design.
it's a feature, not a bug.
It is the inevitable reaction of a fallen world to the presence of God's truth. Which brings us to this master and servant principle he lays out in verses 24 and 25.
Right.
He says, it is enough for the disciple to be like his teacher and the servant like his master.
And then he drops that line about Beelzebul.
Right? He says, if they have called the master of the house Beelzebul, how much more will they malign those of his household?
And Beelzebul was, what, a reference to the prince of demons? Essentially Satan.
Yes. So he's saying, they looked at me, the one who healed their sick and fed their hungry and raised their dead, and they called me the devil.
Wow.
And if they called perfect goodness evil, what on earth do you think they're going to call you, his followers? We have to let that sink in.
Yeah.
We live in a time where we desperately want to be thought of as the good guys. We want the culture to look at the church and say, oh, those are the nice people who run the food pantries and help the community.
We want a seat at the table. We want to be respected. We want to be seen as a positive force.
But Jesus warns us that if we are faithful to his message, we will not be respected. We will be maligned. The crisis for the disciple, then, isn't a lack of information. Jesus has been incredibly clear.
So what is the crisis?
The crisis is a battle of loyalties. Whose verdict matters most to you?
It's a question of the audience, then. Who are you performing for?
Is it the verdict of God or the verdict of men? Because if you need the applause of the culture that rejected your master, you are in a deeply compromising position. You cannot seek the approval of the wolves and remain a faithful sheep.
This sets up the immediate context for our verses. Just before verse 38, Jesus takes this conflict right into the living room, verses 34 through 37.
Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword.
That is one of the hard sayings of Jesus that people love to ignore or explain away. We like the Prince of Peace. We don't like the Jesus who says, I came to bring a sword.
It creates a lot of cognitive dissonance, but the peace Jesus brings is peace with God. And that often comes at the expense of peace with men. He says he will set a man against his father and a daughter against her mother.
And in the ancient world, and honestly in many cultures today, family is the highest God. Family is everything. You do not go against the patriarch. You do not shame the family name. That's the ultimate transgression.
And Jesus steps right into that and says, I am above that. Now, he's not saying we should be malicious toward our parents. He's not overturning the command to honor your father and mother.
Right, of course.
But he is establishing a hierarchy of loves, a pecking order of allegiance. He says, whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me.
There's that phrase again, not worthy.
We're seeing a pattern here. He demands a loyalty that supersedes the strongest, most natural, most sacred biological bonds we have. Christ cannot be an accessory. He can't be something you just tuck into a life that is actually governed by your family's approval or your social standing.
So if push comes to shove,
If it's a choice between pleasing your father or obeying Christ, the choice must be Christ. There's no middle ground.
which brings us to the ultimate choice. I mean, it follows logically, doesn't it? If you have to love him more than your family, you have to love him more than your own life. This brings us to verse 38. And whoever does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me.
And we need to stop here. We really need to do some mental archaeological digging, because we have 2,000 years of church history that have sanitized this image.
Right. When we hear cross, we think of a gold pendant on a necklace. We think of a steeple on a church.
Or we use as a metaphor for any minor inconvenience.
Yeah, oh, my boss is so annoying. That's just my cross to bear.
Or my arthritis is acting up, it's my cross. We have domesticated it, we've turned it into jewelry or a figure of speech for a difficult mother-in-law.
But we have to get back to the first century.
We have to. Imagine you are Peter or John or Judas standing there. When Jesus says the word staros cross, what image flashes in their mind?
It isn't a religious symbol, not at all.
No, it's an image of unutterable horror. It's state-sponsored terror. The cross was the tool the Romans used for slaves, rebels, and insurrectionists. It was designed not just to kill, but to humiliate, to dehumanize, to make an example of you.
It was a public billboard that said, "Do not mess with Rome."
Correct. And specifically, when Jesus says take up his cross, he is likely referring to the patibulum.
The patibulum, what's that?
That's the horizontal crossbeam. The vertical stake, the upright part, was often left in the ground at the place of execution. The condemned man was forced to carry the crossbeam, which could weigh anywhere from 75 to 100 pounds, from the place of sentencing to the place of death.
So imagine that scene. You're walking through the streets of your own town. You're carrying this heavy, splintered wood. Crowds are jeering at you, spitting at you. You're sweating. You're bleeding.
And here is the crucial part. The person carrying the patibulum is a dead man walking.
Right.
There is no coming back. He doesn't have an appeal process. He doesn't have a future. His citizenship has been revoked. His assets have been seized. His rights have been completely stripped away.
And he is totally exposed, utterly powerless.
He is marching to his own death in total submission to the verdict of the state. So when Jesus says, take up your cross and follow me, he is not saying put up with a bad back. He is saying come and die.
He's saying join a procession where you sign over all your rights, all your claims, all your future to me.
Yes.
That is absolutely terrifying. It is the exact opposite of the modern gospel of self-fulfillment. It's not come and find your best life now. It is come and lose your autonomy.
And look at the verbs he uses, take and follow. The Greek word for take is lambone. It's an active verb. It implies appropriation. It's not something that happens to you.
So the cross isn't just dropped on you by accident.
No. You are stooping down and picking it up. You are embracing it. You are choosing it.
It's a voluntary act. You're choosing to associate yourself with the condemned one.
And then follow akolethe, which implies a continuous action. You are walking behind the master. And given the context of Matthew's gospel, where is the master going?
He's heading to Jerusalem. He's heading to Gethsemane. He's heading to Golgotha.
So to follow him isn't just to mimic his moral teachings or listen to his sermons. It is to walk that same physical and social path of rejection. It's to say, I am with him, even when him is being spit upon and condemned by the powers that be.
No. I want to push back on that phrase again, not worthy of me. As a reformed thinker, my alarm bells start ringing. It sounds like merit. It sounds like you haven't done enough work to earn my love.
Oh.
Is Jesus saying we have to suffer to earn salvation?
That is the instinctive reaction, and it's a good one to have. We should be cautious there. We know from the rest of Scripture that salvation is by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone.
Right.
So what does he mean by worthy? The Greek word is axios. It doesn't primarily mean morally perfect or deserving. It's a word that refers to a balance scale.
Like the scales of justice we see in pictures.
Exactly. Think of an old merchant scale. It's about weight or correspondence. It's about a calculation of value.
Okay.
On one side of the scale, you place the value of Jesus. On the other side, you place my safety or my reputation or my physical life.
Okay, I see where this is going. This is powerful.
If you choose your safety over Jesus, if you refuse to take up the cross because you want to preserve your life, what have you just said about the weight of Jesus?
I've said he's lighter. I've said he's less valuable than my own skin.
Precisely. You are making a declaration with your life that he is insignificant compared to your biological survival. So to be worthy in this context isn't about earning your salvation. That's justification, which is a gift. This is about estimation. It's about congruence.
Congruence. That's a good word for it. It has to match up.
A crossless disciple is a contradiction in terms. You cannot say you are following a crucified master while you are demanding a cushioned life for yourself. It just doesn't correspond.
So it isn't that you earn salvation by suffering.
Not at all. It's that a person who refuses to suffer for Christ has fundamentally miscalculated the value of the king. They have weighed him in the balance and found him lacking.
That is a devastating critique. It moves the issue from, am I trying hard enough, to a much deeper question, do I actually value him?
It exposes the heart. And that leads us right into the paradox in verse 39. This is the pivot point of the entire passage. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it.
Let's break this down. Let's take the first half. The tragedy of finding life. What does it mean to find your life in this sense?
The Greek word is eurin. It's a participle that suggests a snapshot of success. This is a person who has pulled it off, they have secured their existence, they've won.
This sounds an awful lot like the American dream.
It is the universal human dream, really. It means you have successfully dodged the persecution. You've kept your social standing intact, you've secured your assets, you have managed to serve God just enough to feel religious, but not so much that it gets you in trouble with the culture.
You have played it safe. One of our sources talks about the modern idol of safetyism. I think this is huge for us today.
Safetyism is the unwritten religion of the modern West. It really is. It's the instinct to keep options open and avoid risk at all costs. It's the belief that the highest good is to arrive at death safely.
Arrive at death safely. That's so ironic when you say it out loud.
It is the ultimate irony. We spend our lives trying to insulate ourselves from fragility. We buy the insurance, we build the fences, we helicopter parent our children. We stay silent on controversial issues because we don't want to be canceled.
We are finding our lives. We are clutching them tight with both hands.
But Jesus says that in that very act of clutching, we are losing. The word for life here is psyche. It's a fluid word in Greek. It can mean your physical existence, yourself, your identity, or your eternal soul. The play on words is brilliant and terrifying.
How so? Explain that a little more.
By clutching the psyche in the lower sense, your biological safety, your bank account, your approval ratings on social media, you squeeze the life out of the psyche in the higher sense, your eternal soul.
So you strangle your true self in an attempt to protect your temporary self.
That's it. There's an analogy in the source material about a burning house that I think is really helpful.
Okay.
Imagine a man who is frantically painting the walls of a house that is already on fire. The roof is collapsing, smoke is pouring in, but he's there with a brush and a can of paint, trying to make the living room look nice.
He's working hard. He's being productive.
He's working very hard. He is finding the life of that room, but he's investing in ash. He is trying to preserve something that is destined for destruction. That is what it looks like to live for this world. You're just decorating a burning building.
And the judgment Jesus pronounces is future tense. We'll lose it. The Greek is apolse.
And that word means ruin, or destruction, or rendering useless. The self-protected life is ultimately a wasted life. You get to the end of your days, you've kept your skin intact, you've kept your money safe, but you've wasted your existence because you didn't spend it on anything that lasts.
It reminds me of the rich fool in Luke 12. He built bigger barns, he found his life, he had total security, and God says to him, "Fool, this night your soul is required of you."
He found the shadow and lost the substance. That is the tragedy. But then comes the flip side, the triumph. Whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. This is what one of our sources calls the Great Exchange.
But let's notice that qualifier again, for my sake. Why is that so important?
Because this isn't nihilism. This isn't a call to suicide. And it's not even just the nobility of dying for a political cause.
Right.
A soldier might lose his life for his country. A revolutionary might die for his ideology.
Right.
A terrorist might blow himself up for his cause.
Right. So losing your life isn't inherently virtuous. The act itself isn't the point.
Exactly. Suffering in itself is not redemptive. Pain is just pain. Death is just death. What makes this loss redemptive is the connection to Christ.
Yeah.
For my sake. It is loss grounded specifically in union with Christ.
So what does that loss look like in practice? It's not just physical martyrdom, right? Most of us listening won't face that.
No. Though it certainly includes that for many of our brothers and sisters around the world, and we should never forget that. But for us, day to day, it is the deliberate handing over of rights. It is the death of the claim, I belong to myself.
Okay.
It is saying, Lord, my reputation is yours to spend. My money is yours to spend. My future is yours to direct. You can spend them however you want for your glory.
And the promise is that if you do that, you find it. What does it mean to find life?
Well, it has two horizons. First, there's the eschatological horizon. That's a big theological word, but it just means the end times, the resurrection. When you lose your life for Christ, you are investing it in the only reality that survives death.
This is where we have to bring in that Jim Elliot quote. It's almost required.
We must. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose.
Okay, let's break that down. Gives what he cannot keep. That's this earthly life. It's slipping through our fingers like sand anyway. We're all going to die.
Right. You are going to lose your life no matter what you do. That's a certainty. The only question is how you lose it. Do you lose it by trying to keep it and it gets taken from you by sickness or old age? Or do you lose it by freely giving it to Christ along the way?
And if you give it,
You gain what you cannot lose. Eternal life, resurrection life with him.
But is it only pie in the sky when you die? Is it only about heaven?
No, and that's the part we often miss.
Mhm.
There's a present reality to this as well. When you stop trying to be the God of your own life, when you stop frantically trying to control everything and protect your image and manage your own safety, you find a new kind of freedom right now.
Explain that. That sounds almost contradictory.
Think about the anxiety of the person who is constantly finding their life. They're terrified of what people think. They're terrified of losing their job. They're terrified of failure. They are constantly spinning plates.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
But the person who has already died, the person who has already said, my life belongs to Christ, he's in charge of it, they are free. You cannot kill a dead man. You can't threaten someone who has already surrendered everything.
That is incredibly liberating. If I have already signed my reputation over to Jesus, then I don't have to panic when someone criticizes me online.
Exactly. You are held by Christ. You find a life that is robust, that is anti-fragile, because it is rooted in him, not in your circumstances.
And all of this is grounded in the resurrection. That's the logic behind it. We can dare to lose our lives because Christ lost his for us and was raised. The tomb is empty. So the sacrifice is never, ever in vain. We are following a winner, just not in the way we thought in chapters 8 and 9.
Amen. That's the whole story.
I want to pause here for a minute and put on our specific Reformed thinking hats. We need to do some careful theological synthesis because we talked about worthiness earlier, and I want to make sure we are crystal clear on the relationship between this cross-bearing and our actual salvation.
This is a vital point to get right. If we get the order wrong, we fall into all sorts of error. In Reformed theology, we make a sharp distinction between justification and sanctification.
You okay?
Justification is a legal declaration from God. He declares us righteous, not because of what we've done, but because of Christ's perfect work credited to our account. That is instantaneous. It's a gift received by faith alone. You do not earn it by carrying a cross.
So my suffering doesn't atone for my sins, but my cross-bearing doesn't pay God back.
Never. Let me be absolutely clear. Your suffering has zero atoning value. Only Christ's blood atones. If you think your cross-bearing is adding to the finished work of Jesus on his cross, you have left the gospel. You are back under the law, trying to earn your way.
So where does our cross-bearing fit into the picture then?
It is the fruit of our union with Christ, not the root of it. It is the evidence of a transformed heart. Think about it this way. The one who has been truly saved by Christ will begin to love Christ.
Right.
And the one who loves Christ will be willing to suffer for him. It's not a condition for salvation, it's a consequence of it.
It's the inevitable result. It's what happens when the Spirit of God takes up residence in you.
Right. It's like breathing. A living person breathes. Breathing doesn't make you alive. It shows that you are alive. In the same way, taking up your cross doesn't make you saved. It shows that you are saved. It shows that you have the Spirit of Christ within you, conforming you to his image.
This connects to what Paul says in Romans 6.
And Galatians 2:20, I have been crucified with Christ. The old man, the self-centered, sin-loving self, has to die. That's what the Reformers called mortification. And the new man rises. That's vivification. This finding and losing in Matthew 10 is the daily rhythm of the Christian life.
And it also touches on the doctrine of the perseverance of the saints.
It does. We believe God preserves his people. He keeps them. But he preserves them through their perseverance. The assurance that you belong to Christ isn't just a past memory of a prayer you prayed at summer camp when you were 12.
Right. It's not a one-and-done transaction you look back on.
No, it's an ongoing reality, evidence in a life that continues to choose Christ over self, even when it costs you. It's the proof of a living faith.
Let's get practical by looking at some common misreadings. Because this text is so sharp, we tend to try to dull it. We look for loopholes. We've touched on the merit misreading, thinking we earn God's love. What about the Stoic misreading?
This is a really common one, especially, I think, for men in our culture. The Stoic misreading says, okay, Jesus wants me to suffer, so I will grit my teeth. I will crush my emotions. I will endure pain for its own sake. I just need to be hard.
The stiff upper lip Christianity. I am a rock. I am an island.
Exactly. But that is not what Jesus is saying. He says, for my sake. This is relational. It's not about an aesthetic of hardness. It's about love. You can weep while carrying the cross. Jesus did. He wept in Gethsemane. He was in agony.
So it's not about being an emotionless robot.
Not at all. It's about valuing him more than the pain. You can feel the pain. You can hate the cross in terms of the suffering it brings, but you love him more, so you choose to carry it anyway.
Okay, then there is the ascetic misreading. This is the idea that I should hate my body, hate good food, hate marriage because all spiritual things are better than physical things.
That's Gnosticism, not Christianity. We have to be really careful there. The issue isn't creation. Creation is good. Food is good. Marriage is good. Money can be a tool for good. The issue is idolatry.
It's about position. It's about what comes first.
Right. Have these good things become ultimate things in your heart? Are you willing to lose them if obedience requires it? We don't reject earthly joys because they are bad. We hold them loosely because Christ is better. You can enjoy a steak dinner to the glory of God, but if enjoying that dinner requires you to compromise your witness, you push the plate away without a second thought.
Okay, what about the reckless misreading?
That is the person who basically runs into traffic to prove they have faith.
Mm.
I'm going to go provoke a fight with the culture just to show that I'm being persecuted.
The person who is obnoxious on purpose and then claims martyrdom.
Right. I was persecuted for Jesus. No, you were persecuted because you were a jerk. There is a difference. The call is to faithfulness, not to theatrics. We don't seek out persecution. We seek out Christ. If persecution comes, and Jesus says it will, we stand firm, but we don't manufacture it. We need courage, not presumption.
And finally, the one that probably hits closest to home for many of us, especially in the West, the costless grace misreading.
This is the loophole we all want. This is the view that says, okay, verse 38 is for the Navy SEALs of Christianity. It's for the missionaries in the jungle. It's for the martyrs in history books.
I'm just a regular, private, safe Christian. I go to church, I write a check, but I'm not going to carry a cross.
I'm in the reserves. I'm non-deployable. But Jesus doesn't offer a reserve status. Look at the text. Whoever. It's universal. If self-preservation is your ruling principle, you are finding your life. And Jesus says if you find it, you lose it. There is no loophole for the suburban believer to keep safety as their God and still claim to follow the crucified one.
This isn't just an isolated hard saying either, is it? It's not like Jesus had a bad day in Matthew 10 and then kind of lightened up later. This seems consistent across the entire canon.
It is the uniform testimony of the New Testament. You
Yeah.
cannot escape it. In Mark 8, he addresses the whole crowd, calling anyone, not just the 12, to come after him. But look at Luke 9. Luke adds one tiny, devastating word to the saying.
Well, what's that?
Daily.
Take up his cross daily.
That changes everything.
Yeah.
It means this isn't just about one big crisis moment where you face a firing squad. It's about the alarm clock going off on a Tuesday morning. It's about the daily grind. It's a sustained posture of dying to self-will.
In John 12.
The grain of wheat. Jesus says, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. No death, no fruit. It's an agricultural law of the kingdom.
And Paul, his whole life seems to be a commentary on this verse.
Philippians 3 is the biography of a man who did this. He lists his resume, Hebrew of Hebrews, Pharisee, blameless according to the law. He had found his life in religious status. And what does he do? He counts it all as rubbish. The Greek word is literally dung, that he may gain Christ.
And all the way to the end of the book.
All the way to the end. Revelation 12:11. How did the saints conquer the dragon, the accuser? They loved not their lives, even unto death. It is the same story from start to finish. Following Jesus means walking the way of the cross.
So we've established the theology, we've established the danger of misreading it. Now I want to get really practical. I want to know what this looks like on a Tuesday. We like to break it down into head, heart, and hands. Let's start with the head, our intellect. How do we need to think differently in light of this?
I think the biggest thing is we have to redefine success. We are pragmatic people. We think if a ministry is big, God is blessing it. If a bank account is full, we're doing it right. If everyone likes us, we're being effective witnesses. We have to reject the pragmatism that says growth equals blessing.
This must be especially hard for church leaders, for pastors.
It is the primary temptation. The temptation for a pastor is to soften the truth, to save the church's reputation, or just to keep the pews full. He thinks, if I preach on this hard text, people might leave, the giving might go down. So he softens it. He files off the sharp edges.
He is trying to find the life of the church, to preserve it.
Exactly. But Jesus says we must preach the truth, even if it costs us numbers. We have to believe that fidelity is more important than immediate results. We have to be willing to look like failures in the eyes of the world, to be faithful in the eyes of God.
Okay, now let's move to the heart. Our affections, our desires. What's the idol we are confronting here?
The idol of comfort. Plain and simple. And we need to ask ourselves a diagnostic question and be really honest with the answer. What can you not bear to lose?
That is a scary question to ask yourself.
It is. Is it your professional standing? Is it your sense of control over your kids' lives? Is it the approval of your neighbors or your friends? Whatever you cannot bear to lose is likely the thing that is functioning as your life in this passage.
And that's where you're vulnerable.
That is where you are vulnerable. That is where you need to apply the cross and say, Lord, I surrender even this to you.
And for the weary saint, the person who is actually suffering right now, who feels like they are losing, how does this apply to their heart?
It should be a word of massive comfort. If you are being rejected for Christ, if you are losing friends because of your stance on the gospel, do not be afraid. Suffering is not a sign of God's abandonment. It is a sign you are walking on the same road as the Master. You are near him. The cross is where you meet Jesus in a unique way.
Finally, the hands are volition, our action. I want to get gritty here. Give me a specific scenario, not just be nice. What does dying to self look like in 2026?
Okay, let's talk about the home. Let's talk to fathers and husbands. It's Tuesday night. You've been at work for 10 hours. Your boss was demanding. The commute was terrible. You are physically and emotionally exhausted. You walk through the front door.
And my flesh is screaming, I deserve a break. I've earned this.
Your flesh says, I have earned 20 minutes on the couch with my phone. Leave me alone. That is you trying to find your life. You are trying to reclaim your autonomy, your comfort.
So what does the cross look like in that moment?
It looks like the death of the zone out. It means you hear the chaos of the kids fighting, you see the exhaustion on your wife's face, and you say to that burning desire for comfort, no, you die right now. You put the phone down, you get on the floor and build with Legos, you engage your wife, you shepherd your family, you lose your life, your leisure, your me time to find the life of the family.
That is harder than martyrdom sometimes. Martyrdom happens once. This happens every single night at 6 p.m.
It is the daily dying. Or take the workplace. It means speaking truth when a lie, or even just silence, would preserve the peace. It means refusing to be a secret disciple.
The water cooler moment.
Yes. Everyone is nodding along with some ungodly idea, or laughing at a crude joke, or celebrating something Scripture calls sin. And the pressure to just nod along, to not make waves, is immense. It's safe to nod.
You don't want to be the weird religious guy.
Right. But taking the cross means risking the awkwardness. It means saying, actually, I don't see it that way, or I can't join in on that. It means risking the promotion, risking the social capital to identify with Jesus. You are spending your reputation to buy truth.
And ultimately, it comes down to repentance, doesn't it?
It does. We need to name the specific idol of self-protection we are worshiping and turn from it. We need to say, Lord, I have been trying to save myself. I have been my own savior. I stop. I resign from that post.
As we wrap this up, I'm just struck by the finality of it all. The Christian life isn't a negotiation. We don't bring our terms to Jesus and try to meet in the middle.
No, it's an unconditional surrender. It is a funeral for self-will. But, and this is the glory of it, it is the entrance into true, actual life.
That is the beauty. You're either clutching a life that is slipping through your fingers like sand no matter what you do, or you're releasing it into the hands of the one who conquered death itself.
And that's the final point. Jesus doesn't just expose our idols. He offers himself as the better treasure. The question is not just, what must I give up? It's, who am I gaining? And if you gain him, you have everything. You have a treasure that moth and rust cannot destroy and that death cannot touch.
That is where we will leave it. Thank you for walking this very difficult path with us.
It has been a privilege.
This has been Reformed Thinking. Until next time, take up your cross and find your life.